Get a FOOS, Mizzah Tee. This video will be about Nintendo sports and how I think it should come back. As you all know, during the N64, in the early goings, Nintendo and EA had issues. EA was doing kind of a wait-and-see approach with the N64. They obviously didn't like that Nintendo continued with cartridges and the pricing, so they kind of did a wait-and-see approach. I think for the first year and a half, 2 years, they didn't really support the N64, and that prompted Nintendo to basically do their own sports games under the Nintendo Sports mantra. Mostly the developer Left Field did their sports games, basically to take up the slack for EA Sports not being there. Maybe because EA came back earlier than Nintendo thought, they didn't really quote-unquote need their own sports division. But I really like the games that they put out. One of the first games was, which actually came over from the Super Nintendo, was the Ken Griffey series. If you know anything, you know that Nintendo owns the majority stake in the Seattle Mariners. And for many years, they put out these awesome Ken Griffey baseball games, starting with the Super Nintendo. So that continued on with the N64. But one of the first games I really liked from Left Field was the Kobe Bryant series. They made 2 Kobe Bryant games on N64. The first one was called Kobe Bryant Courtside, and it was a really good basketball game. One of my favorites during that time. I was an NBA Live guy up until basically this game came out. Most people probably were. But then when we got to the third dimension, I kind of switched over to the Courtside game. And I don't buy sports games every year. Some people do, but I don't. Because sometimes it's mostly in a roster upgrade, and maybe you'll get some presentation differences and things of that nature. Some changes in like coaching modes or something like that. Maybe some animations here and there, but I don't usually buy them every year. So 1 or 2, sports games in a series for a console is pretty good for me. So when Nintendo came out with Courtside, I was very happy. Had a lot of fun with that game. One of the next games that came up from Left Field was Excite Bike 64. Now, during the mid-90s to late 90s, there was a boom in what we know as extreme sports, and those are sports that are not traditional. Things like motorbiking, skateboards, Tony Hawk series really blew up during this time, snowboarding, all that kind of stuff. And that was an excellent opportunity for Left Field to bring back the Excite Bike series, which really wasn't a series. It was only one game on the NES. It was cool that Nintendo handed that franchise, that wasn't really a franchise yet, over to Left Field, and they did an awesome motocross game with the Excite Bike name. They obviously added a lot more to it. You still got the level editor, which was amazing, so you can create your own jumps and loops in a level, and I think you need the expansion pack for that. I can't remember right now. The jumps were there. It was a lot more skill involved in this version. It was, it rewarded you for good riding, and it it definitely punished you for bad riding. Like the smallest mistake could totally screw you out of the race. But I loved that. I loved how it was almost sim. It was very simulation in that aspect, although still being somewhat arcadey because of the jumps and stuff. And but even the jumps were simulation because you had to tilt your bike a certain way to make the jumps. You can jump further and faster, or you could totally screw up the jump by tilting too fast, too early. So it was very simulation in that way. There's a lot of shortcuts and all that cool stuff. I really liked Excite Bike when it came out. It was a great game. And then of course Left Field continued on in their basketball games with Courtside 2, starring Kobe Bryant. They kind of changed the name up a little bit, and they upped the presentation in this one. I really like this, and this was my favorite version of this series. And I loved it. It was, the graphics were better, the ball handling was better, the controls were tighter, the dunk animations were better. I like the way they handled free throw shooting. You can call plays better. Everything was just better. And they had this thing at the top called the momentum meter, basically. And it was based on, how your ball handling skills and obviously your shot making and all that stuff. It would go up. And the more it went up, the harder it was to basically stop your team. for the other team to stop you. That added a kind of a simulation, kind of a more simulation style gameplay element to it. It was kind of RPG-ish in that way, so that was kind of cool. I really loved the Courtside series on N64. I've had hundreds, if not thousands of hours, probably thousands of hours playing these games. The thing was, I remember reading about the creator player for Courtside 2, the second one, and there was supposed to be a feature where you can take the Game Boy camera, take a picture, your own picture, and put your face basically on the player in the game. And that was also supposed to happen for Perfect Dark, but I think Nintendo got a little scared about bullying and what people would do when they saw their kid's face plastered on some person in a video game getting killed. So they canned that feature, but too bad. Still, the games were great. I love Courtside. And then, of course, which was a big surprise to me, was 1080 Snowboarding. It was an awesome game, but the thing was that Miyamoto developed it, and it was just really weird for Miyamoto to make this kind of a game. It was very kind of licensed. There's licensed gear in it. It's a very Western style game, and for Miyamoto to be the guy behind it was pretty mind blowing at the time, at least for me. And it was a great game. Just like skateboarding, I wasn't into snowboarding or skateboarding either, but video games allow you to get into stuff that you normally wouldn't get into, like, for instance, golf. I didn't care for the game of golf itself, but I liked playing golf video games. And I learned about the game and understood it better by playing the video games. So then I, gained a different appreciation for it. But basically, 1080 Snowboarding is an awesome snowboarding game with some cool tricks, and created by Miyamoto. And it was, I used to have a blast playing this game with my friends and stuff. They would come over and we played all the time. And it's one of those series I'd like to see come back. I just remember being blown away by the graphics at the time. Obviously, they don't look as mind-blowing today, but back in the mid 90s, these were pretty darn good graphics. You didn't get this much detail on characters and stuff like that in the background. And it was really good. Like I said, it was really weird to see Miyamoto making a game like this, because it wasn't some, he usually makes games based on, inspirations from like his childhood and stuff. And I don't know, maybe this was, I don't remember reading. I don't know if he's a snowboarder or not. But it was just a way different game than we'd expect from getting from Miyamoto, and it was great. And probably the game of all the Nintendo sports games that I played the most on my N64 was Wave Race 64. And that's probably because I got it early on, and there weren't a lot of video games for the N64 when I first got mine, and I got Wave Race, so I played the crap out of this game. This series is known for its water physics, and this game probably has the best of both Wave Race games, even though it's the oldest one and the first one. It's just the game that I enjoyed most of the two Wave Race games, and I played the most. I just remember loving the music in this. Sometimes I would just go to, I think it's called Dolphin Cove, where the dolphin is that you kind of learn how to control. It's basically like a free riding mode where you can learn how to do tricks and stuff without worrying about winning the race and stuff. You learn it has a few jumps and ramps and stuff. You can learn some tricks from that. Not Dolphin Cove, Dolphin Park, what it's called. And it was just fun to like jet ski around that little section for just hours and feeling the waves. This is before the Rumble Pack came out, so you didn't actually feel it, but it felt like you felt it because the physics were so good. The wave and the water physics were so good. You felt yourself really bouncing around and crashing from the waves and stuff. So definitely a Nintendo sports game I would love to make a return. If you haven't heard recently, they were going to bring this game back on Wii, but they ended up canceling it. They were going to have some weird kind of control setup where your Wii remote and your nunchuck were the handles, handlebars basically of your watercraft, and by tilting them forward or back is how you would speed up and slow down. And they would also incorporate the balance board for, cornering and stuff, and that would have been a disaster. That would have been too busy, too much going on. Cool idea, but they eventually just took what they did for the Wii, or what they were going to do in the Wii version of Wave Race, and just added it to a mode in Wii Sports Resort. And it's probably a better idea. But I would definitely love to see Wave Race come back, especially with today's graphical capabilities, and you can really get in on the water physics. And obviously they continued on a little bit into the GameCube with Wave Race. As I mentioned before, there was Wave Race Blue Storm on GameCube. I have that here. And there was also 1080 Avalanche, which I don't have, and the Courtside on GameCube, and that game was not good. That was easily the worst Courtside game. It felt pretty rushed. It wasn't nearly as good as the N64 ones, which was a shame because those were, like I said, really good games. So, but I bought it here, obviously, but it was a big letdown. EA came along eventually, and Nintendo felt like maybe they didn't really need it. But on the Wii U, they're back into the situation where they could use a Nintendo Sports, a left field, to be making sports games, and I think they would have went a long way. Not unlike when the Dreamcast came out and EA decided they were going to support it because they got burned on the Saturn and all the peripherals on the Sega Genesis. Sega decided to invoke Vicarious Visions, which created 2K basketball and 2K football and 2K hockey series. So I thought that was a good idea for them to do, and those games sold pretty well on the Dreamcast. And I think Nintendo, if they had their own sports division like they had before, they could benefit for that, because they still, as far as I know, they still own the Mariners. They never made like an Ichiro baseball series, which I thought was a huge missed opportunity. So I would love to see them get back to that. What do you guys think? Do you care about Nintendo Sports? Was it something that you liked back in the day and want to see come back? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you fools next time. Peace.
Oh yeah, one more thing. Play Nintendo, fools.